Sending it to start now. Hello, good to go.
Oh, okay. We're good. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Sherdog.com. It's your man, Ant Walker, here with the Trenches, the weekly live chat. So let's go ahead and get things going. We do have a fair amount to talk about. And of course, when I say we, I'm talking about my co host, my partner in podcast crime, the man himself, journalist extraordinaire, incredible human being, a humanitarian, a doer of all things good. Captain Credential, Jason Burgos. Jason, what's going on, bro?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm ready to do this. Talk some MMA stuff. Sorry, we're late as always. But then in the terms of the trenches, we're on time, baby. We're ready to go. Only 11 minutes late. That's easy.
Yeah, it's early for us. That's early. I mean, it's always these technical difficulties now. I mean, unfortunately, since Google decided to discontinue the Hangouts link to YouTube, for anybody who knows what that is, congratulations. If you don't know what we're talking about, sorry to bore you with this, but just so you know why things have been consistently late. Since then, we've had to find alternative means to broadcast, and that's led us to try a few different things that have not worked clearly, and then sort of last minute changes that we got to do on the fly. But here we are, ready to talk about people punching each other in the face for money inside of a steel cage. So I'm kind of excited, man, for this one, because we do have some interesting news items to get through. Got a good bunch of questions. And of course, last time the homie Jay was not behind the scenes feeding us stats. All sorts of calamity ensued. I may have kicked the camera or something to that effect. Hopefully we'll avoid the destruction of property this week and just talk about destruction of the human body. So let's go ahead and start with the first question. This question is from Europe One, who asks, Ant-Man and Jason from the Bronx, am I correct in believing that the UFC is just hunting for its next Ronda, Conor, Lesnar-esque superstar, with everyone else just being pocket change filler? Is it financially viable, and could Weili Zhang be what they've been seeking?
I mean, I think it's it's not like a new thing that they're hunting for that. I think they're always hunting for that. They're always hunting for the next star. I think where they've gone off course a bit is that they're always hunting for the next star, but brand was always key, and brand was always the priority above everything, and that changed, and it became more about specific fighters, and they got away from, if you're on the brand, everybody's great, everybody's talented. You want to see all these people, and they've gotten too hard to focus on certain individuals and putting them out in the front. And I don't know if it's just them being lazy and don't want to do the marketing anymore. Let the fighters do the marketing. We'll do our usual shtick, and that's it. But it's the usual thing. They should just put more emphasis on everybody and believe everybody can be the next star, instead of, oh well, this guy's a good talker, or this person seems to be interesting, or they have these many social media followers. Is Weili Zhang what they've been seeking? I would say no for now, just because in a sport that's based in the U.S. that has a lot of English-speaking fans, she doesn't speak English yet, so it's always going to be a huge barrier when you don't speak the main language of money. And Alberto Del Rio once told me, English is the language of money, and you need to speak English. So hopefully she's something that she's working on and will get better at. But it's way too early to know with Zhang. She what she did was extremely impressive, but she's going to have to do it a bit more before we can even put her in the category. Because as much as people want to talk crap about Lesnar, he's still got really big wins against legendary fighters and defended his title. Conor won 2 titles in 2 divisions against top fighters. Ronda, again, a champion that defended the title multiple times before they became like these crossover stars that they eventually did.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I think the UFC is kind of holding out, waiting for some big star to emerge. And like you said, they're always kind of in that holding pattern. But I think this is more reflective of the UFC not always being the best at promoting the fighters.
Yep.
That's never really been their strength. Their strength has always been promoting the brand, promoting the
Hmm.
sport. And they have forsaken a lot of good fighters along the way in in um, in order to boost the brand. Because one could make a very serious argument that the biggest star in the UFC is Dana White.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that is a very strong argument you can make for that. I remember one time talking to King Mo about this before I became a media member, and this was his gripe with mixed martial arts as a sport, and he was like, "This isn't a sport. This is entertainment." And the reason why is because the guy who's supposed to be the boss is the biggest star. It doesn't make sense
Hmm.
in that sense when you're trying to create stars, that the guy who should be behind the scenes signing checks, making deals and whatnot, is the brand, is the star. Notice how he has been prominently featured on magazine covers like Men's Health and the
Yeah.
UFC magazine. I want to say he was on the cover of the first one of those. He's always prominently placed. He's always got like a celebrity aura around him, and that's kind of not something you see with like a Roger Goodell or an Adam
Yeah.
Silver. The guys who are running the more traditional stick and ball sport leagues. Now, I will say, as far as Weili Zhang is concerned, or Zhang Weili, I'm not sure exactly where how we're supposed to say her name. The UFC has it listed as Zhang Weili. We have been saying Weili Zhang.
I think
So
that's just a culture thing. I think like her first
Chinese name.
name's Wei Li, but yeah, they always do last name for us first.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure which one is supposed to be the first name and last name. So I don't know which one we're going with here. But anyway, I don't think she's what the UFC has been seeking in the sense of a Ronda or Connor as star, as far as the English speaking audience is concerned. But I think when we're talking about that, we're being kind of narrow minded here. The English speaking audience is only a fraction of the audience for mixed martial arts. And I think we could look at UFC 242 coming up this weekend as a good example of that. That is essentially a regional card for the Middle Eastern Muslim majority. That's what that card is really for. Um, but it's a big pay-per-view. So I think Weili Zhang kind of fits inside of this box where she is a star for China. She is someone that the Chinese fans can stake their claim as far as dominance in the world of mixed martial arts, but that doesn't necessarily translate into American stardom or American popularity. But let's think about it this way, man. So did you watch the post fight presser
Mm-mm.
from Saturday's event? All right,
No.
so Dana White said something on there that just seemed kind of strange to me. He said that her next fight was going to be in the U.S., probably the main or co-main of a numbered pay-per-view event. So you think, cool, that is her kind of breaking into some sort of pop culture standing that we at least can attest to. But if the big push is to go into China and to tap into the 1.5 billion people there, and get this whole nation of people who have a culture entrenched in martial arts to follow MMA and to be all about MMA and all about the UFC now, with a star fighter that has a championship belt. Seems like it'd be a good idea to let her keep fighting in China. And one thing that he also said during that press conference was that the um, the country of China has so many heavily populated cities that they can go to so many different places and get capacity crowds and get a lot of media attention and generate a bunch of fan buzz and interest. So why would you forsake all these other cities in China to just come back to Vegas, where you could put anybody? It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me if that's the plan that they're going to make. They could make her a huge star over there, and I don't know what that's going to translate into dollars and cents for the company. as far as what their TV deals are set up like over there, or I'm sure pay-per-view isn't a thing in China. But I don't know. But they are clearly very interested in making a foothold in that market with a performance institute that is open there and apparently is 3 times the size of the one in Vegas. It's just too much investment in China with a Chinese champion to then decide, okay, let's take her to Houston and defend the belt. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, that's why I say what Alberto told me about English is the language of money. Because if you look at all these companies, everybody wants to go to the U.S. One championship, talking about an event in the U.S., maybe New York. KSW, talking about an event in the U.S. eventually down the line. Combate Americas. Yeah, they're doing great all over South America, but they want to do stuff in the U.S. I wonder if it's kind of like a commerce monetary thing. Like, yeah, they might fill out arenas in China, but is it like Chinese denomination? It's like Chinese money, the yen or whatever, and in the end, does it not equal up to U.S. dollars? Yeah, they might sell out, but is it not the same kind of value to sell out in China as it is to sell out maybe in the U.S.? And that's why, I wonder, that's why he's maybe bringing it. Everything you said is perfectly, it's true. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but maybe just doing an event in the U.S. with a U.S. dollar, and that's why all these promotions want to come and do it. It makes a big difference. Like, you don't see PFL or Bellator saying, "Man, we can't break." Yeah, you want to go to China, but I feel like Chinese growth for organizations, maybe, I wonder if it's TV deals. Like, everybody wants a TV deal there. Do they want to put events all the time at the same value? It's the interesting question.
Well, so I just looked up where you said about the exchange rate. So as of right now, I'm probably going to screw up the pronunciation of this, but the Chinese dollar is called the yuan.
Okay.
I believe it said. So right now, 1 yuan equals 14 cents. However, China is still a global superpower, and that's pretty undeniable if you follow economic news or just social political news and all that. China is a major country, definitely a global superpower. So it has a lot of manufacturing capabilities, a lot of even real estate holdings in the U.S. Like, they own a significant portion of the land in the United States as well, and some of our national debt. But that's a whole nother conversation. But still, it doesn't hurt for the UFC to put a little put the one Chinese champion they have frequently in China. Doesn't hurt at all, because it's not like they have any real competition for the U.S. market at this point. It really did. Bellator is the closest competitor, and not even close, really, in terms of market share, in terms of recognizing the brand, in terms of recognizing the fighters on the roster or anything. So, for instance, we're all talking about UFC 242, and that is, aside from the top 2 fights, pretty crappy card as far as the name value goes, and what you can expect from a relevancy and ranking standpoint. But there's a heavyweight title fight going on in Bellator right now, in the start of their featherweight Grand Prix that same day, and nobody seems to care. Uh, Outside of the guys like us who are just, fully entrenched in mixed martial arts, partly because it is our profession. So that'll show you, like, they don't quite need to just have their champions in the U.S. in Vegas on a pay-per-view. They can put some guys in other places, and especially when you've already invested a lot into China, why not have her fight in China to take advantage of the many well-populated cities there? All right. So, anything you'd like to add to this one, man?
Nah, I think we've covered all the bases that
All
won't
right.
take like 45 minutes to do.
Oh yeah, I was designated member in the chat saying, did China lower the trench's social credit rating and now we can't use YouTube? Um, yeah, they might have had something to do with the sabotage of the show from a technical standpoint. But I'm gonna point to your homie Chatri about that one. I think your homie Chatri might be trying to shut us down from afar. So
No,
you
we're
want
on
hit
we're
him
on good
up, hit him up,
terms.
and hit him up. Tell him to knock that shit off, man. It's all love. It's all love, my guy. Kickboxing with little gloves forever. Frank McEgger saying Zhang versus Waterson in Bangkok. What do you think about that one?
Why is everybody pushing Waterson into title fights? I don't understand. Suarez, baby. It's Suarez, not Waterson. I know she's popular, but everybody wants this woman in a title fight. I don't think she's deserving a title fight right now. I don't like it. Sorry, Frank.
Oh, you don't think she's deserving of a title fight?
Not in front of Tatiana Suarez. No, Suarez is next in line.
I'm not mad at Suarez getting the next shot. I'm not mad at that at all. I would prefer Suarez because she's so new to MMA. I would prefer her getting a little seasoning first, especially in that her fight against Nina Ansaroff. Some holes exposed. Maybe it was related to her injury, but I like to see her get a little more seasoning first. Michelle Waterson, on the other hand, is a well-established veteran, former champion in Invicta, on a 3-fight win streak right now, and popular. I don't see why. I was actually really surprised that they skipped over her in the first place for Weili Zhang. Of course, knowing what interest the UFC has in China, that makes sense. That's where it all comes together. But from a competitive standpoint, I think she's had the stronger resume. She's the more known quantity, and on top of that, ESPN clearly loves her. She's definitely one of the more popular fighters to not have a belt. So that just seemed like something that they were going to do, man. But yeah, Frank McGregor saying hashtag mom champ. And designated member pointed out to a well-established veteran who's about to get brutalized by Joanna. So of course,
let's see her beat her first. Then I'll believe it.
So once again, I'm not mad at that. If Joanna wins that fight, cool. Like makes total sense. I'm not mad at that matchup being made. But if Weili Zhang right now wanted to fight, say she wanted to fight in a month and a half, and they pulled someone, if they pulled Michelle Waterson from the Joanna fight, it would make total sense to me to do that. But Suarez also makes sense. I would just prefer to see Suarez get a little season first. That's all.
I mean, I'm looking like Waterson's record. The Carolina win is a good win, no doubt. But I mean, Harry and Courtney Casey are solid wins. But she did, it's like, I think they feel like they've given up because she had her chance. She faced Rose, she lost. Okay, no problem. Tough fight. You get Tisha Torres next time. Maybe if she had beaten Tisha Torres, you'd be right. But then she lost to Tisha Torres. So, like, two of the elites in the division, she had her chance to really push herself into contention and fell short. And I think that's probably the biggest hang-up for sure for me. And maybe with the UFC, why she's not getting pushed there. It's like, you had the carrot right in front of you, and she couldn't, just get over the hump and get that win that put her as a no-doubter.
Excuse me, but also let's not forget too that apparently the UFC offered Michelle Waterson to fight Weili Zhang last weekend.
Is she one of the people that turned it down?
Yeah, she turned it down because she didn't want to go fight in China. Which I'm sure if you ask Jessica Andrade what that was like, she might say, that might have been a good idea to say no to this one. Yeah, so I think also too she might have been skipped over simply because the UFC seems to favor you just being at their beck and call, and she clearly wasn't. So yeah, if you start thinking like, hey, this doesn't fit my interest for whatever reason, UFC will definitely forget about you in a heartbeat.
Now I'm looking at Suarez's record, undefeated. I mean, 8-0. I mean, no, it's not like 30 fights or whatever. That'd be perfect. But last 3 wins: submitted Grosso, good fighter, beat the heck out of Carla Esparza, and then decision Ansaroff. How much more seasoning does she need from Mr. Walker?
No, I just want to see, because the way the last round went against Ansaroff is really where I'm kind of like, oh man, because Ansaroff was starting to light her up on the feet. And when she couldn't get the takedown, it was like, oh, this is bad. So you imagine if that was a title fight and went another 2 rounds, she's getting smoked. And hey, if that's what happens, that's what happens. I do think Suarez is kind of a special talent. She's someone who really could do things, and I would hate to see her get pushed too far too fast.
I mean, but I feel like we were talking not too long ago about, you get your child shot, you fall short, and sometimes it can just ignite a stronger fire in a person and take them to new heights. I mean, didn't that happen with GSP? He got a title fight, lost, and it became better. She's still young.
I mean, there's definitely not an exact science to this. It's no textbook that says this is exactly what's going to happen if you do X, Y, and Z. But I think we've seen cases where a guy got rushed and wasn't the right thing for him, like Darren Till, for instance. Darren Till had no business being in the cage with Tyron Woodley at that point in his career. and we'll see what he looks like against Kelvin Gastelum. But it hasn't really gone well for him since that night.
I will say there is a science. It's called the Burgos is right science, and I believe you should really follow it.
You know what? The Burgos is right science. Is that what it's called?
Yes, correct.
It sounds like trash.
Yes.
Total trash. It's
BW.
It's like it's like a snake oil salesman. That's what that sounds like to me. Just total horseshit. And I'm not here for it. So
but you are here for it. You are here because I can cut you off right now.
You could, but then I mean, are you asking for demotion? Is
I
that
mean,
what
you know,
I'm hearing?
I already know it's coming already.
Staff Sergeant credential? Are you back at it?
Frank, do you want to step in via YouTube chat as the co-host? Now I'm gonna make you the co-host.
Man, you know what? Nah, damn this. Me and Frank starting our own show. All right, so let me go through some of these comments here.
Why is Tommy Shelby rushing us? Why it's Tommy? Why are you rushing us?
Tommy's just gonna wait. You're just gonna wait, homie. That's what it is. So, like I said, designated member asked before Tommy. It says, let's be honest. Speaking of resume, it's secondary. Popularity and sellability is the main force behind title shots. That's what we should talk about.
Why? Isn't that the Conor McGregor way of promoting? Are we trying to be better than this?
We are, but here's the thing. It is a reality that we have to accept. We have to accept that. But of course, we are purists, so we do need to make a stand for resume, for actually earning a title fight and meritocracy. And that's a cool Joker glass, by the way.
Thank you.
Like that. So all right, so Tommy Shelby asking, do we like Juan Archuleta? Yes, I like Juan Archuleta.
Yeah,
okay.
I can't wait for that fight. I think he has a legit chance to win, and I asked Emmanuel Sanchez about that. He feels he has a legit chance to win too.
Yeah, and Archuleta too. Like I've only interacted with him briefly, for the LA Media Day. For this upcoming Bellator card that he's fighting on, 228, I think, is the one coming to the Forum, where he's the main event against Pitbull, and then for.
Are you going this Saturday or no?
This Saturday?
Yeah, for San Jose. Are you not going to Bellator?
No, I'm not going to San Jose.
What about that one? You gonna go to that one then, the Forum one?
Yeah, the Forum. Yeah, I'll be at that one. Yeah, so I went to that media day, and then also for Bellator 214, where he fought on that card as well, and interacted with him. He seems like a nice dude. He really seems like a nice guy. Consistently one of the better dressed guys in MMA also. Low key fashion game is on point with Archuleta. As far as what he does in the cage, that guy is it, man. He's serious. He's definitely one of the better fighters on that roster. And I'm very much looking forward to what he can do now. You know, it is crazy that he is matched up with Pitbull for his first fight in this tournament, but of course this isn't the absolute bracket of what it is. I think it's like a preliminary round, and then they're gonna do like some sort of lottery draw to match the fighters up for the real tournament, to where it's elimination Grand Prix. So I'm curious what he does, but he is someone that no one in that featherweight tournament should be sleeping on. I do also find it notable that in that media day, Pitbull was the focus of just about every featherweight in the room for obvious reasons, him holding the belt. But Darian Caldwell and AJ McKee in particular were seriously jaw-jacking at him. And first it started with Caldwell. It was like right before I go to interview him. Caldwell starts yelling something at Pitbull. Pitbull starts yelling something back. AJ McKee joins in, and AJ McKee has got the whole Body Shop squad behind him, and they all join in, and Pitbull's just sitting there laughing and calling everybody everything but the child of God. Afterward, when they finally do the face-offs and stuff to conclude the press festivities, Archuleta is laughing and joking with Pitbull about, hey, you need to focus on me. Like, let's forget all that. Like, don't forget about me. We're gonna fight. And he's shaking his hand and giving him a hug, and like, he just seems like a good-natured guy. Wish him the best. Should be fun to watch him in that Grand Prix. So Tommy, patience is a virtue, my man. Told you we'd get to your question. All right, now let me put where the hell are my questions for the rest of this show? There it is. All right, so let's move on here. We got a question from Jits86, who asks, what do you think of the growing popularity of bare knuckle boxing as a sport? Many former MMA fighters have made the crossover. Does it stand to contend with MMA or take some of its market share eventually? Or is it more of a fad that won't last? Is the sport sustainable for fighters from a health perspective? A lot to digest there. I know it's a subject that we have uh, dove into quite a few times on the show, but it's worth revisiting because they did announce their newest main event, which is Bigfoot Silva versus Gabriel Gonzaga in the battle of the weakest chins. Jason, please tell me, the growing popularity of bare knuckle boxing, is it growing in your eyes?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely growing from where in the U.S. it existed from non-existent. Yes, it's grown from non-existent to existent. Is it going to take from the UFC's market share? I'd say no. I think people that just watch the UFC may watch that too. They're not gonna, start going, "Oh, I'm BKFC guy. I'm not watching this UFC bullshit anymore." It's not gonna happen like that. It's a crossover of fans that they're both watching both probably. I just think it's caught on to the taboo vibe that once surrounded the UFC in its very earliest days. It's the same kind of thing. Even when I talked to Chris Lytle about it, he fought for BKFC. He said the same thing. It's kind of caught that, how UFC has gone from like fight sports to kind of sport now, which is good. That's good for everybody. BKFC is still like that fighting, gritty kind of, dangerous vibe that UFC kind of got away from because it wanted to make a lot of money with advertising. So, is it going to take from the market share? No. Is it growing in popularity? Sure. I don't know how big it's going to get. If it flared out and wasn't big anymore in 3 or 4 years, I wouldn't be surprised either. Is the sport sustainable for fighters and from a health perspective? The people I talk to, of course, they are part of the show, so of course they're going to be positive. They say that it's not as damaging with gloves because, one, it's more cuts, cuts of the knuckles, so the cuts make it look worse than it is. Two, you can't just throw bombs because you can easily break a knuckle, break your hand, break your bones in your hands, break a finger, or break your wrist. So you have to be very, selective with your punching and stuff like that. So it looks more brutal than it probably is. I still am for MMA because in the end you could do a lot of grappling and it's not any damage to the head. But, it's a lot of head hunting in it. But, from what I've heard, it's about on the level of boxing, maybe even slightly less.
Yeah, as far as the popularity of it, I don't think it is any threat whatsoever to mixed martial arts or boxing or kickboxing for that matter. It is very much a niche product. It's very much in this small sliver of space where people that just want to see someone get fucked up will watch it, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It exists for a reason. Nothing against it on that standpoint, but I definitely don't see it growing. And you also just take a look at the storylines that we have seen out of their last couple of main events. So you had Artem Lobov versus Jason Knight, which kind of was lightning in a bottle. Two guys who were, decent at best MMA fighters, who didn't quite make it at the elite level, and now they just had the right personality to just go at it with each other. And then with Artem Lobov and Paulie Malignaggi, they were just in the right place at the right time and had the right story attached, which Conor McGregor's name just floated through that. And now you got a rub from the biggest, one of the biggest events in combat sports history in Mayweather McGregor. So you just kind of got lucky and caught that vibe. The next one, Leonard Garcia, and I can't remember who was his first opponent was supposed to be. I can't even remember, but it ended up being somebody else, and they had to put it on for free, and it just ended up not being good, or at least good as far as people really caring. So now you've really dug to the bottom of the barrel for the biggest heavyweight names you could possibly find, that are still alive, metaphorically speaking, in the combat sports world, and you throw them together. And then also, you try to sign Alex Emelianenko, who has hepatitis and is a convicted rapist. So it's like you're digging at the bottom of the barrel now. However, there is a sustainability in the sense that it gives, looks like just MMA fighters who washed out for one reason or another, whether it be age, whether it be they just couldn't cut it at the highest levels. It gives them a place to where people might give a shit about what they're doing. I wouldn't be surprised to see a guy like Diego Sanchez in BKFC at some point. you know, guys like that who are known for action fights and aren't winning a title anytime soon. If we weren't like, you know, we're talking about BJ Penn with all of the things surrounding him, he'd be a guy that I could very easily see in bare knuckle if they could afford it. You know, it's there for a reason. It's not taking over MMA or boxing or any other established sport, but I don't have anything against it. And from a health perspective, like you said, man, you're gonna break your hand if you try to hit somebody full force. The technique has evolved, even over the course of these last several events. You see a lot more body shots. You see a lot more selectivity in the shots because there are consequences to hitting hard bone with your fist. So
And you know
there
what?
is that.
What another point I made, and I think this is where they're going wrong, and I think they were going right in a bit, but like I said, I think a lot of the people watching BKFC are crossing over from boxing or MMA. They're watching this because it has that taboo vibe to it. But these people are smart. Do I really want to see two MMA fighters? That it's a unique sport that's on the crossroads. It's the crossroads point of MMA and boxing. That even though Malnaji versus Artem disappointed as a fight for some, it drew interest to it, and it made BKFC seem like a bigger deal. I want to see BKFC have boxing versus MMA. This is what we all want to see. We want to see the boxing fighter go into a cage. We want to see the cage fighter go into a boxing ring. But it's not going to happen unless for the odd occurrences. So this could be the unique crossroads. We can get some really good boxer from the past fight Chris Lato. And Chris Lato, he has a boxing background. He's a good fighter. I want to see that. It makes it unique. It gives those fans that want to see the boxing versus MMA appeal there. And you can have boxer versus boxer and all the other stuff. But I feel like they're missing out on taking advantage of something that makes them completely unique. Because if they're going to have a boxer fight a boxer, we can see that in boxing. If they're going to have an MMA guy fight an MMA guy, we can see that in MMA. But if you could have the two cross, that'd be fun.
And yeah, and we can actually see good versions of those matchups as well.
Yep.
Now the problem would be luring the right names. Like that's always
Exactly.
going to be the problem with something like
Yeah.
this because the highest level of boxers, the boxers that most people would care to watch, aren't going to do this shit.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not going to do it for very good reason. And the highest level of MMA fighters that we would like to see do this probably aren't going to do it either.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to get real selective. Like Paulie was like a special case because he was the guy who was popular to an extent, well known because he stayed in the public eye as an analyst and a commentator, and just happened to have his name attached to Mayweather McGregor.
Yeah.
So it just kind of worked out. But you don't have a lot of guys like that. Even I think of a guy like Adrian Bronner, who is someone who we recognize as a legit pro boxer, and probably more so for being a moron in general. But Bronner is a guy who gets paid too much. You probably can't afford him.
Yeah.
So I think they're gonna have to do better than Bigfoot Silva.
If it was let's say James Toney that fought Randy Couture, that needed the money desperately, fought Randy Couture, he existed now. That man exists now. If it was James Toney versus Bigfoot, I'd be intrigued. Two big fighters, or maybe if it was Anthony Johnson, they would give Anthony Johnson versus James Toney. I'd fucking watch that. I'd be intrigued. They have to take advantage of
James Toney.
Yeah. Or Roy Jones. I mean, Roy Jones. Throw a lot of money at Roy Jones. He might be willing to do it. Roy Jones versus Anthony Johnson, or somebody like that, or But they can make something. It's just they have to take advantage of someone's unfortunate financial situations. And the bigger stars, like you perfectly said, the bigger stars have made so much money. It takes so much for them to be in a bad financial situation that they need BKFC with the rates they're offering. So yeah, it's a tough spot, but BKFC, if you watch it, do more boxing versus MMA, please. I will watch.
And don't try to grow too big. Like don't try to fill up an arena. Stick with the small venues right now. Keep the overhead costs as low as possible, and then if you start seeing some, maybe get a little ambitious if you got the right pair of names. But if they couldn't, I doubt like Paulie versus Artem would have sold out, an NBA sized arena. And if you're not going to be able to do that with those names, you might just want to stay in your lane and try not to grow too fast.
I had asked the guy who runs World Lethway, which is like kind of like kickboxing with just wrapped hands and stuff like that, headbutts. If he'd be interested in cross promotion with them because they like the American well-known bare knuckle sport, and he'd be open to it. Do those unique things. Get like somebody from BKFC in World Lethway because World Lethway's on Fight Pass. You know, you have a little cross promotion that maybe draw attention through via Fight Pass, and then have a top fighter from Lethway in BKFC. You know, do those kind of cool things and help each other out because that's what those companies on the same level should help each other to grow.
Yeah, makes sense. I like it. All right, so we're gonna go to this question from Rushbag, who asks, "How would a fight between Dominic Cruz at his best and Henry Cejudo at his best go?"
Ooh, that'd be so amazing! Oh my god, I wish I could see something like that. I mean, if Dominic Cruz can just take that one last fountain of youth moment and make that fight happen, oh my god. It's tough to say. You know, because my thing I think about is because Henry Cejudo is a flyweight, but he's, you know, bigger than normal flyweight. He's a, you know, he could be a sort of legit bantamweight, but Dominic Cruz is extremely hard to take down. Demetrius Johnson has serious trouble trying to take him down. Now, Cejudo's a higher level wrestler, probably stronger, but still, like, it's one thing you have to transition to MMA. So I don't, if he can't take him down, if Dillashaw couldn't piece up Dominic Cruz, is Henry Cejudo going to do it? I don't know. I mean, I think if he couldn't take him down, man, I really could see prime Dominic Cruz just absolutely schooling a Henry Cejudo. What do you think?
Man, I was torn with it. When I saw this question, I was just kind of like, my mind went in about 30 different places. Because seeing prime Dominic Cruz, and let's just make this very clear for the people who are kind of newer to the sport. Like, if you came around in the Conor era, or you came around, let's put it this way, if you weren't watching the UFC before the Fox deal, you didn't see Dominic Cruz consistently at his best.
Yeah.
You know, you've seen great performances from him. At UFC 199 in the, what was that, the third Uriah Faber fight, was just beautiful work by Cruz. What he did against Mizugaki, insanity. You know, Dominic Cruz has definitely had some incredible moments, but you haven't seen what he's capable of on a regular basis, at least enough to have it cemented in your mind what this guy can do to you and how this guy can, like, he made Brian Bowles quit on the stool, man.
Yeah.
in his only title defense in the WEC. Like, Dominic Cruz is something special. Henry Cejudo, though, I think what he did against Marlon Moraes, where he weathered the storm and then just pressed this attack.
But you can't do that against Cruz. I was just thinking the same thing. You can't do that. You can't just be silly with Cruz. He's so smart. His style is so difficult. That wouldn't work against him.
It may not work. But here's the thing: is like he doesn't have Cruz doesn't have the power, I think, to keep someone like Cejudo off. And that's where it starts getting very interesting to me. Because Cejudo takes a couple of those punches, and then it's like, oh, all right, I don't really have that much to fear as far as getting slept right now. Let me just keep at him. And I don't think his gas tank would let up. Man, but still, I don't know.
Because against Moraes was beating him up. He was working the leg kicks. He was beating him up, and he just said, "Fuck it, I can't be technical with him. I'm gonna have to push." And Moraes has a natural inclination to finish someone. He wants to get that big blow and get that finish. His natural fighting style. Dominic Cruz will be completely fine with pot shotting, moving, you know, make you miss, blah blah blah. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, him pushing on him would be tough because he just move, hit you with 1-2 kick, move. I mean, Henry Cejudo would just be so frustrated, just like everybody else that fought that dude.
Man, like, but then also too, size would become a factor in this because Henry Cejudo is definitely not a small guy for flyweight, but he's not the biggest bantamweight in the world, like that. And I was there for Cruz defending the belt against Demetrius Johnson, and size became the biggest factor in that fight, in my opinion. You know, when it push came to shove, Cruz was the bigger man and was able to do more things to DJ because of that. That's probably going to end up being the deciding factor if those two fought in their primes. Hopefully, we can still see something like that. I'd like to see Cruz return and against Frankie Edgar.
Hmm.
I think that would be the best fight to make. Although I think they're proposing a different fight for Frankie for Madison Square Garden. But yeah, I would like to see Dominic Cruz return against somebody legit. If he styles on that person, maybe we got another couple of vintage Cruz performances. Maybe we see that fight. But there will always be a lingering of doubt um, about the prime nature of a Cejudo Cruz fight if it were to happen, because Cruz has lost so much of his career due to injury
Yeah.
that it's kind of it's like, man, will we ever see the best version of Dominic Cruz? It's very understandable if you said no, we won't.
Hmm.
All right, so let's see. Frank McGregor asking, do you guys think the real flyweight champ Mighty Mouse will return to the UFC one day?
I mean, you can't. Anything's possible. My gut now would be no, but anything's possible. But I don't know. I feel like in a maybe 4 or 5 years or less, DJ calls it a career anyway. So, if I had a gun in my head, I'd say no.
Yeah, I don't see him coming back to the UFC. One, he's getting paid a lot of money at one championship. He's very well compensated. He apparently, you've talked to him several times since he left the UFC. He seems to be content there. He seems to be happy with the company culture. He's designated member saying if ONE FC folds, maybe like that, like in a scenario like that, yeah,
Yeah,
he come
but
back.
that's
But
years away.
yeah, I don't foresee ONE FC folding that soon. But anyway, I also too we keep talking about the esports that ONE is proposing, and DJs are going to be a big part of that.
Yep.
So he wouldn't leave just on account of that. Like I don't
Yeah.
think he would leave one championship where he's getting paid a lot of money to then and then enjoying the company culture
Hmm.
and having this esports deal wrapped up into his fight money to have the chance to really make an impact on that world as well. To come back to the UFC where he doesn't like the trash talk, he doesn't like the style of promotion. He and Dana White just never seem to really vibe on a lot of things. And then just go back to Twitch streaming. I don't think that's what DJ wants. And really, how long do we think he's going to still be fighting? Like he's got maybe a few years in him before we can start saying like, it might be time to hang it up.
Hmm.
So yeah, man, DJ ain't coming back. That's that's ONE FC forever.
One championship, not one
ONE FC sounds a lot better. Right, let's talk about that for a second.
Oh boy, here we go. Here we
Well,
go.
just saying, one championship doesn't sound as good as ONE FC. It sounds cooler.
I think we all love the FC thing because Pride FC, Invicta FC. We're so used to it, but one championship. See, one championship is not that great, but just one. Those capital letters, one. I love that.
Well, they had the same letters with ONE FC. It just
But you don't
said
need the FC. Let's be
fighting
different.
championship at the bottom instead of one championship. And then also, how can you call yourself one championship when you claim to have like 8,000 champions on your roster? Hmm? There isn't just one championship.
That's a
Huh?
good
You see what I'm
question.
saying here?
But maybe it's like the one home of championships, not just the home of martial arts, which it is.
Ooh.
It's the home of
Oh,
championships.
oh, did you just get promoted back to captain credential with that?
I think I
Oh,
did.
stay woke, fam. Stay woke. Oh, that was gorgeous.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not sure because I didn't look at all the questions, so forgive me. But I'll ask you about this. Did you see how they're apparently like giving away a lot of tickets for the
Mm.
where is that in the Philippines?
Yeah, and
They have
that's
an
not
event
the.
coming.
I don't know. I think you were on that the journalist from Twitter who's based in Asia was talking about that for another event, stuff like that.
Yeah, Dana Blowen. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's not it's the first promotion I've heard do that. I've heard others companies not in the UFC, not the UFC in the US do that too. Um, as I told somebody from one championship recently, I'd rather them give away tickets and have a full arena than not give away tickets and have an empty arena. Because I've been to MA events, a few recently, that had an half full arena, and it killed the vibe of the event. Even with a great card, with a lot of finishes, a half full arena it just does something when you're there and when you watch on TV. If there's just something about the vibe, and that's why I enjoy watching One Championship. The crowds are into it. They're electric. They're excited. It adds an atmosphere that I dig about sports or anything like that. So if nobody's gonna buy it, fuck it. Just fill the arena, make it exciting, make it fun, fake it till you make it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you on that. But also they're taking out ads too for just photographers and not even like real photographers. So yeah, because they do like their red carpet thing. The fighters get off their bus and they want to have like a paparazzi vibe. So they're like open call on Facebook to just go over there and just take a picture, and you'll get like 3 tickets or something like that. So.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
so
do like that they do that. It is kind of cool. It's unique to them, but yeah, we all want it to be perfect and on the UFC level, but you can't get to the UFC level without some bullshit in the way.
So I do want to, and this is off script, but I do want to ask you this: do you think the UFC making a move into China and Weili Zhang now being the champion of the strawweight division? Do you think that does good or bad for one?
I mean, we talked about it on Between the Links last week. I felt that it hurts one in that it's direct competition who's really making a strong move into the region, and getting a champion. But that's my gut feeling, but it still remains to be seen. We'll only know over time. In the end, One Championship still has a leg up in that they're in the region. They have a roster full of faces that look like Chinese people, and it's an Asian market. They have Japanese faces, they have Filipino faces, they have people from Cambodia. So that always makes a difference. When you're promoting a brand, if the people that you're watching kind of look like you. So I think that'll always help them, and that'll be key. But yeah, the UFC cutting, I think that definitely undercuts them to have a champion. If she becomes a big star, she's one of the best fighters in the what's believed to be the best promotion. Oof, that's big. It's real big.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something right there. So that was just one little angle that I don't think a lot of people were really talking about, how this is going to affect their push into it. I should say their presence in the Asian market. So let's go ahead and move on just a bit. In fact, you know what? No, we'll address this. Where am I at? All right, here we go. Touch Butt Dork. All that name. What are your thoughts on how women are treated in the UAE, and how do you feel women's mixed martial arts will be received this weekend?
Had they in the previous Abu Dhabi event? Were there no women on the card? I guess that's
The only
Jake
like UFC 112, there were no women fighters in the UFC at that point. So none on the card there. I'm trying to think. Have they've been to Abu Dhabi? I think maybe 2 other times, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't remember off the top of my head what those who was on those cards. I'll look that up really quick. But yeah, just go and talk and say some shit while I'm.
I mean, my thoughts on it's tough to sum it up in a 5-minute or less thought, opinion, splurge. I mean, because it's a thing on religion and religion within government, all these kinds of things. It's a tough thing as a person, a liberal leaning person, from the U.S. It's not a favorable how women are treated in the Islamic world in general. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think they would be the best. One of the better examples I could think of is the WWE going into the region recently and going into Saudi Arabia and stuff like that. And women performers weren't on the first event either. I think they recently did it, and they had to change their gear to make it more culturally friendly. So I'm curious if they're going to be able. I mean, I know that Abu Dhabi is a little different. It's a little bit more progressive than other places, so I think that's why they might be able to get away with certain things compared to, say, Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, how it will be received, I don't know. If we're looking for like a bunch of men in the audience to just be pro women and so supportive, this is amazing. I love it. This is the greatest thing. We're not gonna see that, But are they gonna storm in and start throwing tomatoes and fruit and vegetables at them as they're fighting? No, So it'll just be like a regular event, and it is what it is. But I don't know.
All right, so I just looked it up, and UFC 112, of course, was the first time that the UFC went to Abu Dhabi, and that was off the heels of the uh, Flash Entertainment, I believe the name of the group was, that purchased 10% of the UFC. Yeah. And that was Anderson Silva versus Damian Maia. The first BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar fight was the co-main. I think Matt Hughes got his only standing KO win, and that was against Renzo Gracie. Phil Davis and Alexander Gustafsson, I believe, were on that card as well. So that was a pretty stacked card. That was a good card right there. The next time they went to Abu Dhabi was Roy Nelson versus Big Nog for a fight night card. In what's the date on this? The date on this, I'm sure it was 2014. There were no women on that card. So that was an all-male card. So it looks like the first women to enter the octagon for the UFC in Abu Dhabi will be Lerone Murphy and Zabara Takugov. Now, no, actually, no. There was one before that. Sarah Moraes and Liana Joja will be the first women to fight in Abu Dhabi. Now, I can't imagine that many of the men in the crowd will be very pleased with this. I would be very surprised. I don't think we're gonna have a Rocky IV moment, and if I can change, you can change, we all can change. That's not gonna happen. No. They're probably gonna be very pissed off. They're probably gonna be jeering, or it's just gonna be silence. So it should be very interesting to see what the audience reaction is like. Now, Frank McGregor dropped an excellent question on the chat here, asking, will there be ring girls at UFC 242?
Ooh. I can see it, but maybe they go like Bellator style and they're wearing pants and like a tank top or something like that. I like I said, it's not Saudi Arabia. It's a little bit more of a progressive region in that area, but they still have the strong Islamic ties. So I could see them being ring card girls, but maybe they're dressed a little bit more conservatively.
All right. So designated member saying that they were present at UFC 112. So maybe they're just gonna. Typically, what the UFC does when they go to any other region, they just do what they do. And I think a lot of times it's at the detriment to the product. Like, for instance, when they made their return to Japan, I believe that was for UFC 144, Ben Henderson versus Frankie Edgar. No, it should have been Edgar versus Henderson, because when Edgar lost the belt. But anyway, they did no tribute to Pride whatsoever. No blue gloves, no white cage floor, anything like that to kind of tap into the nostalgia of Pride. Also, like, you think about Ben Henderson and Anthony Pettis when they rematched each other in Milwaukee for the lightweight title in the UFC. No tributes to the WEC there at all. So they've returned to San Jose several times, and no tribute to Strikeforce, nothing like that. So they try their best to go to whatever region and present the UFC product. The cage is the same. The ring card girls are the same. The fights are the same. And I think they're going to try to just do exactly what they always do. Yeah. How that's perceived will be another story, because this will be the first time that there are females on the card. Now, I don't think the UFC has gone into this blind at all. I think they've done their research, and they've decided, for better or for worse, we're going to do this, and I'm sure they have their reasons. But of course, Abu Dhabi has more of a tourist vibe, to my understanding, than some of the other Muslim majority nations in that region. So. Mm-hmm. All right, so now
Fast and the Furious was in it. How is this as progressive as it gets? No,
that's true. Another good point being made on the chat is, like, they hold grappling bouts for women in the region, because they do have
Oh
ADCC.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense. That makes sense. And also being reminded, Liana Joja is an Ahmed fighter, so she's got the blessings of Ramzan Kadyrov, uh, the teddy bear of the world of kindness and tolerance in the world. So
Yes.
so interesting, very interesting there. But there is a serious cultural clash coming up, and whether or not it becomes highlighted, whether it becomes a part of our experience as viewers watching it, not sure. But I do know this for a fact. I've had many conversations with media members who will be in attendance or considering being in attendance, and hey, I think I there is a certain level of uneasiness as far as the cultural differences and what is tolerated and what isn't.
Hmm.
So, all right, so let's move on. I keep losing the window that's got the questions because I got everything formatted all wrong here on my screen. All right, we're gonna move on to Cowboy, who formerly known as Kung Fu Z. So name
Oh, why?
change
Why
there.
the name change? I liked Kung Fu Z. What
Yeah,
happened? Did you
but
get
this is the
banned or something, and you had to change
I
your
don't know.
name?
He might have been acting up, man. You never know. Might have been acting up. So let's ask this question from the man formerly known as Kung Fu Z. He says, so Cyborg fights a legit 145er in Julia Budd. Then what? Cross promotion fights? Question mark. And
Yeah.
before you answer that, Jason, um, perfect time to tie in this week's poll question. And that poll question is Bellator the right place for Cyborg? As we know, Cyborg has now officially joined the Bellator roster and reunited with Scott Coker, who was at the helm of Strikeforce when she became a known quantity in the world of mixed martial arts. So the poll results read as follows. We have 33% saying yes, Bellator is the right place for Cyborg. The other two-thirds say no. I'd rather her stay in the UFC, and zero votes for one championship, zero votes for PFL.
Hmm. Interesting. I mean, the funny thing that, and it's a misconception is that, and I think it's been spread by Scott Coker and Chris Cyborg that Bellator has a ton of female featherweights. They're covered. She's gonna have that question is a great question. It's true. After Julia Budd, there really is a distinct drop off. I mean, well, Olga Rubin, sure he lost to Julia Budd. What Hatis Oziart, who's 2-7, yeah, thrilling. Talita Noguera maybe 7-1, but still a young fighter. Who, we want to see Cyborg get someone that's 7-1. The I mean, the only one's Leslie Smith, but she's not a true 45er. I mean,
And she already fought Leslie Smith.
oh, there you go. So it really it's true. Arlene Blencow, okay, maybe, but the Bellator featherweight division is thin just across the sport, and you have it spread across the the Bellator, UFC, and Invicta. And it thins it all out across the board, and it's unfortunate, especially for the women, because some of the best female featherweights have been in Invicta, not making enough, and then they finally have to get to go to UFC, but it's like one at a time, and you have to win the championship to even get there. So, yeah, and even if they cross promotion against who, one championship doesn't have that division. PFL has a 155, but I don't know if they're gonna work with her. Probably not. They're probably not gonna cross promote. Combate, no. Maybe KSW. I don't know if KSW has a 45 featherweight women's division. So they almost kind of should hope it's either a really good fight or Bud wins, and then you eventually force a trilogy out of it. But yeah, I mean, the only thing that's good about it to me is that Cyborg's happy, and if Cyborg's happy, she seems like a good person. She's a legend. She deserves to be happy and appreciate where she's at, and that's what she's gonna get at Bellator. What she's not gonna get at UFC.
Oh, Jason. Oh, Jason, ye of little faith. Cross promotion fights, you're thinking too small, my man. Because you're forgetting about the freak show fights. There are so many freak show fights out there that you can throw Cyborg in. Bellator and Ryzen have clearly have some sort of working relationship with one another. Can you envision a New Year's
No,
Eve
no,
with Cyborg and
no,
your grandmother that used to be a pro
no,
wrestler? Like
no,
that's what's gonna happen, man.
no.
She's been talking about boxing also forever. Her
Yeah.
Bellator contract allows her to tap into other combat sports.
Okay, I'm
Uh,
fine with that, but not. Don't give me Gabby Garcia or some shit like that. Just no.
I mean, you wouldn't watch that.
Yes, but
Exactly.
no.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So that's really what we can look forward to with Cyborg in Bellator. So there was a reason why when I constructed the poll for this week, I didn't put Ryzen as an
Constructed the
option.
poll.
Yes, yes, I'm a master architect, and I crafted this poll myself. But um, there is a reason why I didn't put Ryzen as an option there because with Bellator you got Ryzen. So yeah, like this is what can happen next.
That's like with Bellator, you've got Ryzen. Like with Bellator, you've got anything's possible. I mean, it's not like
Pretty
Ryzen's
much.
got this great division of. I mean, yeah,
No,
they
no.
got them.
Yeah, when we're talking about having legitimate featherweight fights, no, there's
Yeah,
there's
no,
only a handful of them to have. Like after Julia Budd, that's pretty much it. And the
that's
only
not
other
even a
thing,
handful. That's a fingerful.
yeah, and I know I'd have to forget the young lady's name, but there's a fighter, a featherweight fighter on their roster who's like 2-7 or something like that. So I mean, it's really bad.
Yeah.
It's just more bodies than the UFC, but it's really bad. Like
Yeah.
if you combine the two featherweights in the UFC with the several that they have in Bellator, it'd still be really bad.
Yeah.
If you combine the featherweights in Invicta with the featherweights of Bellator in the UFC, still probably be pretty bad too.
Yeah.
It's not a big division, but Cyborg, you have the freak show fights to keep her happy. You can throw her in there against, I don't even know, like some old Japanese pro wrestler, and she can beat the living hell out of her and make a lot of money. And please, drunken morons watching this at 2 a.m. in the U.S. And yes, I'd be one of the drunken morons.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and then the boxing matches. And
That'd be interesting.
yeah, she tried Muay Thai also. Like there are
Yeah.
different things that Cyborg can do. And one
Bellator
cool thing,
kickboxing.
yeah, exactly. One cool thing about Cyborg, as a female combat athlete, is that there aren't many stars as female combat athletes that she would have access to. Um, at least with the UFC, I mean, it cuts off some names. So that means Cyborg is the star. Yeah, Nunes would get top billing over. Like if she were to have the WWE match against Ronda, yeah, Ronda gets top billing over her. But in general, Cyborg would get the top billing, even among some of the best boxers out there. Like even if she fought Clarissa Shields, she might get top billing. She might. I'm not saying she should, but she might. So Cyborg can pretty much do what the hell she wants. And that's good. I like it.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah. And the whole UFC relationship seemed pretty toxic anyway.
Yeah.
All right. For some reason, people are reciting the lyrics to a Flow Rider song in the chat.
I was wondering what the fuck's going
Yeah,
on.
no, yeah, and yes, yes, this is live as I'm being asked in the chat. This is live. Like, what the fuck is going on? Okay.
Oh, he wasn't asking, is this lice?
I hope it's not lice. That would mean I have other problems that I need to handle. Okay, so we got a question from X Factor who asks, who should be first for Anthony Johnson at heavyweight? Top guys like Curtis Blades, or maybe somebody lower down like Walt Harris or Tai Tuivasa?
Let me look at this. I mean, I want to see some more in the roster but my first pick, honestly, I'd be intrigued by it. I kind of want to see him fight Alistair Overeem. That fight would be intriguing. I know Alistair Overeem with Shin and stuff like that. If DJ can get to him,
and they have a beef too. They like dislike each other, and they tried to fight each other before. So
even more perfect. And they're both really high level strikers. So that's just my mind is drawn to that. But I mean, outside of that, Blades would be interesting. I feel like they would give him like a name. I don't think they'd give him like a legitimate maybe rising star or super relevant guy like a Blades. I feel that's why I think of Alistair, because Alistair maybe really isn't in the hunt, but he's a name. So you put Overeem AJ at the top of pay-per-view, or I mean not pay-per-view, but an event or co-main. I think that's an easy sale. Like Blagoy Ivanov, nah. Walt Harris, probably not. Maybe Alexei Olenek, maybe. Could they go with the grappler versus the striker kind of classic vibe?
And kind of like put Olenek out to pasture sort of thing too.
Exactly, yeah, because you know if that's a thing where AJ can look absolutely spectacular. It's like, boom, AJ on the heavyweight scene. He's filthy, be Alexei. I mean, Tuvas would be fun, but again, I don't think they do that. He's a young fighter. I don't feel there's much to gain from that. What would be your thoughts about Junior Dos Santos?
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. And that's actually one I didn't even think about. Was JDS. But here's a name for you right here. So I like the Overeem thing because they have a prior history, the matchup of strikers. I love that. But this is a name for you right here. Brock Lesnar. If you can lure a star like Brock Lesnar out there, that is the perfect freak show fight that keeps people who don't deserve title shots out of title shots.
And that's, of course, our brain. Oh, come on, AJ will take him. AJ's always had a wrestling weakness. That fight to me would be a pickup. Because if Brock can just just get through the craziness, he's so huge. AJ always has a wrestling weakness. If he gets AJ down, he's going to pummel that man. So that is a fascinating fight because it's actually a fairly competitive fight, at least to me.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That has some intrigue to it.
Yeah.
Like and if Brock can't just get that shot immediately, oh my God, the level of carnage that we would see as a result.
Yep. And he's smaller,
person,
so him doing like just wrecking chaos on Brock would be also again an impressive visual, and that's what they would want.
Yeah, I mean, it would look like something out of a comic book. It would look insane. Yeah. And that's kind of what we're aiming for. Mm-hmm. Another good candidate, although he's no longer in the UFC, but Mark Hunt wouldn't have been.
That would have been great. That would have been great.
Derek Lewis, I think due to
I feel like Derek Lewis would be too big. Like I don't think they give him somebody too big. But I don't hate it. It'd be fun.
Derek Lewis would like that with Rumble's history with domestic violence. Yeah, he loved that one.
Yes.
So that's something you can sell that one. Man.
How about this? Yeah. Because again, they're probably going to try to hopefully grow AJ off of this, but again, off of a name, they love bringing somebody and building them off of a name that isn't relevant. What about a rematch with Arlovsky?
Yeah, I can see it. See it, but that doesn't have the same sizzle to me.
No, it doesn't. But it's a winnable fight. It's a name they like to can build off of. It's almost a safer pick than maybe even Overeem. But I can see that.
I could see that happening. It just wouldn't be my first option. I would go JDS before I went with Arlovsky.
Yeah.
But that just Rumble coming back to the UFC is pretty exciting from a standpoint of the matchups that we can have. But I'm still of the mind that Rumble is not here to stay.
Yeah. I agree.
I think maybe he has a couple and then he pieces out again. That's kind of what I'm thinking. All right. Let's go ahead and ask this question here. I don't have that information, so I'm not going to ask that question. Frank McGregor dropped one to us that I think is definitely worth noting because I'm sure we both know the answer to this one. Does the UFC have any plans for backup fighters for Nurmagomedov versus Poirier? And I know you know that answer.
Yes, is that a no?
So, they do. Yeah, they do. It's
Tony
really? Ferguson. Yeah, Tony Ferguson.
He will be there in Abu Dhabi.
Yes. Apparently he's on weight and ready to fill in.
Holy shit! Wow.
There was some speculation on MMA Twitter that this was that the MMA gods were now going to find some roundabout way to make Khabib versus Tony.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, or this is the way to trick the MMA gods.
Yeah.
So we might get that. You never know if Dustin slips on a banana peel or something before Saturday. maybe that's what happens. But
Or the MMA gods will say, "Fuck you! You're gonna get Ferguson Poirier." Boom.
yeah, and yeah, Khabib slips on the banana peel, and it's
Yep.
like, well, guess we really won't get that. So actually, yeah, I want to address a question too from we got asked on Twitter from Sherdog's own Ed Carbajal,
Oh.
and I'm gonna read it just the way he wrote it.
Oh, I
He
saw
said,
this.
"Why come UFC 242 so early?"
By early, what does he mean? Like it's airing because it's
Yeah,
foreign. What is
yes.
this? What's the airing time? It's not. At least it's not as early as the UFC Shenzhen,
No,
right?
no. I think for you it comes on at like noon or something.
Really? Oh
Yeah.
shit! Wow.
Like I know I'll be watching prelims while still waking up, I think.
Mm. I love it. Who
Yeah.
doesn't want to watch UFC at lunchtime? Fuck.
Yeah,
I'll
like
take it all
I'm all
day.
for it, man. I
I'll take
want it to
UFC at
happen more.
noon over midnight anytime.
Hell yeah, like especially because
Because we're old, you know.
yeah, we're old, man. I'm tired, man. I got time for that shit. And then I do my sometimes I do my post fight show on my YouTube channel.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, I ain't trying to be up all night.
yeah.
I gotta write my post fight columns. I'm like, I ain't trying to be up all night, man.
No.
Trying to get some sleep. Yeah, man. The hell with that. All right, Ishmael on the chat saying 2 p.m. Eastern. I don't know if that is that the main card or the
Probably
prelim?
Maine. I would think gotta be Maine. Ishmael,
Yeah.
Maine. Ishmael, are you beating Jay to the stats here?
Yeah, I could very easily. In fact, Jay might have been dropping stats. I actually hadn't even checked the Slack because I thought he wasn't going to be today.
10
But
p.m. East, 10 a.m. Eastern prelims, 2 p.m. Yeah, main card. Yeah.
okay, main
Jay
card.
beat him to it, baby. Jay always.
And the thing is, I could have very easily looked it up myself, but I just didn't feel like it. So
Yeah.
there it is. So I'm excited for that, man, and especially was it last week we had the card in China. I woke up. Unfortunately, I forgot to turn the spoiler alerts off on my ESPN app, so I woke up to alerts saying that the Zhang got the knockout. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just fast forward to that and watch it. So I watched the main card of that. But it's nice sometimes to not watch the UFC in the wee hours of the night.
Yeah.
It feels good to just brew a cup of coffee, have my breakfast, and watch people hit each other.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. And then when it's over, especially if I've got my writing done, whether I've done a broadcast or not, cool. I've done all my work, and now maybe I can take my wife to a movie.
Yep.
Maybe I can just, hey, I want to play some video games.
Yep.
I want to do something other than sit in front of the endless parade of Reebok fight kits until 1 a.m. And I know being on the East Coast is rough for you. I remember I wasn't a media member on the East Coast, but I used to work at a sports bar that showed all the pay-per-view fights. So I would be in there bartending until 2 in the damn morning and exhausted out of my mind. Like the fights in at like 1 in the morning. I got an hour of a couple people still hanging around drinking, and then cleaning up the bar and not getting home till about 3:34 in the morning.
Yeah, because it's 1 in the morning, the card, but then fighters are not, going quickly in the shower to talk to us in the press conference afterwards. So I remember leaving UFC on ESPN Plus One. I had to leave the press conference early. I didn't even get to see his Cejudo's part of it because I had to go to the parking lot where my car is at and get my car and go back home to the Bronx because that shit was closing. It was like 2:30 in the morning. Like I love anything much earlier.
They didn't have a parking in the arena.
No, because Barclays is like right in the middle. It's in the middle of like a city. It's in Brooklyn, but it's surrounded by homes
What
and
sort of
buildings and stuff
trash
like
is
that.
They got like
I mean,
they
the
didn't have
Garden's like
media
that
parking?
too. MSG's like that too.
They didn't have media parking though.
No.
That's great. What type of shit is that?
Yeah. No,
that's
MSG
stupid trash.
didn't have media parking either. No, because it's so expensive around there. And the parking they have in those places are usually for the fighters, the staff, the arena officials. They're gonna get the parking that's anything inside the actual building, like maybe in the basement, but not the poor saps.
Oh man, see, I will say that like all the stuff that I've covered out here, with the exception of any time the Forum has been the only problem parking place for me. The issue with the Forum, though, they have their own lot, big ass lot are surrounding the building, but uh, unless it's the UFC over there, the media has to pay for their own parking.
Mm.
And that's, but of course, expense it or whatever, and it'll come back to me. But that's not the biggest deal. But I've even had, like, so whenever fights have been in downtown LA, the Staples Center, I normally just Uber over there just so I don't have to deal with it. But there is media parking there, and I just hate driving through downtown. So damn that, yeah. But yeah, I haven't run into that issue. I mean, the arenas here have their own designated parking. I will say this, so I covered a Triple G fight at StubHub Center in Carson once, and that parking was gutter trash. Gutter trash. The only reason why I was able to get a spot on the lot in the media parking was because the girl who was like checking everyone's credentials was just nice, and I was polite, so she just helped me out. So it was like you had to go up to the attendant and you tell them, yeah, I'm here for media. I'm like, well, where's your credential? I'm like, they don't give the credential until I get here, so I need to park my car and go and then get my credential. And they're like, well, without a credential. I'm like, this is not how this works, right? and then this girl, some other girl was just like, I'll just go through. She gave me the pass. So shout out to you, young lady.
Another one, right. Newark didn't have parking either. The only ones that have parking is Nassau Coliseum because of space. So it's like it has space for the parking, but Newark didn't have parking either.
The greater New York area seems super trash.
Oh yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah, I mean, LA's expensive too, but we do have space.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got a lot. We have too much space. It's too many damn highways. This is another story, man. Another story. All right, so I'm gonna jump into the chat because I know we're running a little over time here, but we will answer a couple more questions before we wrap things up. Got a question from Paige Elk, I guess that's how it's pronounced, asking, do you guys have full-time jobs besides MMA related stuff? Yes.
And that's all we'll say.
That's all. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we do. Like, here's the thing. Like, MMA media is not glamorous and high-paid work. Nope.
Many of us are doing this.
Yeah. Most media members are doing it as a side gig. And when I say side gig, I mean I don't mean like, oh, you just you caking in money on the side of your fat ass job. No, it's because you really like it. You really love what you're doing, and you have a voice that you want to let out to the world. So you do it. Like that's really what it is. It's genuine. Typically, if you are a member of mixed martial arts media, you really love what you do. Otherwise, most of us wouldn't do it. Yep. It is largely thankless work, to say the least, and it never stops. Like, so when you guys are can regularly tune in to a UFC fight every weekend, or when it's not the one time the UFC is off, it's probably Bellator or it's one or some other promotion. You're watching fights all the time just because you want to do it. Hey, our work is still going on. So what happens is we watch the fights, and then when you have changed the channel and you've gone to the bar drinking with your friends, or you're fucking off doing whatever, we're writing. We're watching every interview and press conference, and we're outlining stuff, and we're preparing for the next week. We're doing our tape study for the next week because it never, ever stops.
I got a perfect example of like my day today to sum up kind of what I do often. I had my regular job, 9 to 5. On my lunch break, I spent a lot of it while eating my lunch coming up with questions for an interview, which took about half an hour, 35 minutes or more. Then came home. First thing I do when I come home, do the interview, ate dinner, podcast. After the podcast, probably work on, it's two jobs. Anthony said it perfectly. You need to love it or you're just going to hate it because it's legit two jobs.
Yeah, I know, like, so you guys looking at the background right here, like normally, when I'm doing this show, you'll see like my comic book stuff hanging up in the background or whatever. I'm at my office right now. Like wife and I had a doctor's appointment. We had an ultrasound, look, my son is growing. He's getting big, all in his stomach and whatnot. But so after that, I come here and like, all right, let me get some work done, get some hours in for the day. And typically when I do this show, I leave my office just a little bit early so I can do it from home.
Mm.
However, today since I came in late, I'm like, I'm not going to leave early. So here I am at my office. So these are a lot of the sacrifices that we make in order to provide you guys with content, free content to you nonetheless.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's thankless, but we love it, so we keep doing it.
Yeah.
And
The
that's one
moments
reason
like
why.
working with you make it all
Oh
worth
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That's yeah. Jason Burgos, Captain Credential is the homie. So I'm always down to work with my man. So that's another cool thing. Like it's a lot of cool people in
Mhm.
MMA media. So for everyone out there who wants to trash some people on Twitter and you want to you don't like this article, you want to fire people in the comments and all that shit. Like for me, that shit is fun. That shit is fun for me because I don't pay you motherfuckers no mind anyway. It is entertainment for me, but yeah, there are good people out here doing a lot of work for a lot less money than what you think. So respect it, and to all you out there that are taking advantage of all this free content right here and all of these underpaid workers, cut the check. You know what
Oh,
time it is.
school! Oh,
You know what time
wow.
it is. All
Someone's
right.
gonna get a Slack message.
All right, so let's go ahead and drop these who you got, and we'll scan the chat for anything else, and we'll get up out of here. So Jason, Islam Makachev, Davi Ramos, tell me, man, who you got?
I'm gonna go with Makachev. I mean, he seems to be the fighter on the rise that everybody's behind. He's the favorite by a fairly decent amount, to 17-1. I think we had that question at the end of the show last week about him fighting Habib one day, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, he seems to be the it thing. The Dagestani fighters, while they may not be the most exciting fighters in the world, they're most pleasing to the eye. The wrestling dominance is legit, man. It's like fucking some of the Muay Thai, the serious Muay Thai that sometimes comes out of Brazil. Like that wrestling out of Dagestan is legit because they are just grinders. So I'm gonna go with Makachev.
Oh man, I'm leaning toward Makachev as well, but man, this fight seems like it could be something.
Mm-hmm.
Like to see the ground battle that's probably going to take place. The Dagestani fighters are known to be these suffocating, smuggling wrestlers, and Makachev is definitely of that ilk. He's definitely a guy who sticks on you like glue, makes your life hell when he's on top of you. But he is fighting a guy in Davi Ramos who has quite a few submissions on his record. In fact, the majority of his wins are by submission. Like he's only got a few decision wins on his record and one TKO. Everything else has been chokes. And I seen one armbar like early in his career, but in the UFC he's just rear naked choked everybody except for Austin Hubbard in his last fight. I'm very curious as to what this fight is going to look like, and this is going to be a scramble heavy ground battle. But I think in the end, Makachev goes chest to chest. He lays on him, spreads his weight the right way, keeps him down, and gets a decision win. But should be very interesting. And this is one that I think is going to be more exciting to watch in hindsight, to like rewatch and really try to break down the X's and O's. I'm pretty stoked about this one. And I just said stoked, yes. Um,
So
Man,
90s of you.
I've been in LA too long, man. If I'm saying dope, what the fuck is wrong with me, man? That's
It's
oh
very
man,
unmilitant of you. Not militant at all.
man, I gotta fly my ass back to DC.
The Black
I
Panthers
got
would not say stoked.
they say Stokely Carmichael though. Oh, stay woke, fam. Stay woke. Okay, Jason, tell me the co-main event of UFC 242. Edson Barbosa versus Paul Felder in a rematch. Tell me, man, who you got?
I'm gonna go Barboza. I'm almost feeling a way like, oh man, I don't want to say this, but like Paul Felder, because he's so well respected as an analyst, he has gotten better over the last few years. But I feel like his stature is maybe a little overstated. I feel like he's a guy that needs a certain kind of matchup. I'm still shocked that he lost to Mike Perry. Like, if he's going there with a grappler heavy guy or maybe a well-rounded fighter that's not a great striker, I think he it's more favorable to him. When he's in there, I think with a really good strike, I just feel like it's probably going to lean to the other striker, as good as he is. And I just feel like, assuming Edson Barboza can come back from the Gaethje fight, and he's been, the fascinating thing about looking at his record, Barboza has been in a lot of, like, wars and really brutal fights. I mean, Justin Gaethje was a brutal fight. I was at that. Getting knocked out bad. Kevin Lee was very brutal in terms of the ground and pound. Khabib was also brutal because of the ground and pound. Like, he's taking a lot in the last 4 fights. He beat Dan Hooker with impressive, like, the kicks to the body, but he's done a lot. If he can rebound from that and he doesn't start showing, a weathering of his skills and, like, an aging, a fast aging, I just think he's the better striker. So I'm going to go with him. I'm going to go with another decision win for Barboza this time again.
All right, so I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I'm going to call this one for Paul Felder. Now, their first fight was a very exciting fight, I thought. I was highly entertained by it. But I think the difference was that Barboza was just the better athlete. He just seemed a little bit faster. Reflexes were just a little bit quicker. It was like those little tiny things Barboza was just slightly better at. And that was enough over time for Barboza to clearly take that fight and run with it. Felder has now gotten a lot better. As we said last week, his time as an analyst has improved him as a fighter. And you look at the damage that Barboza has endured his last 4 fights. Even the Dan Hooker fight, he took some lumps in that. I think we're seeing a declining Edson Barboza. And a slight athletic decline in Edson Barboza feels like a Paul Felder win to me. It feels like now the skill gap probably is about the same. Paul Felder, I'm sure, is much better on the ground than Barboza. But if Barboza isn't the faster guy, if he isn't the guy with the quicker reflexes, if he's the guy who's going to be just a little hesitant or a little broken coming in, I think Felder outworks him. I think the things that worked for Barboza before against Felder do not work this time. Paul Felder by decision is my pick. All right, now main event: Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Dustin Poirier. I think it's Poirier. Is it Poirier or Poirier? I've heard it both ways.
Poirier, yeah. But maybe, if you're from the Bayou, maybe it's Poirier.
All right, so I'm gonna try to say these names correct. By the way, I think people say them correct. They're probably going to be wrong, though. Khabib Nurmagomedov. And yes, I said Khabib, not Khabib. Versus Dustin Poirier.
I
didn't say it yet. I didn't say it yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who you got?
Okay.
All about Brandon.
I'm gonna go with Khabib. Also, it seems like a lot of fighters I talk to are going Khabib. You can go on Sherdog.com right now. There's a pro picks video with 18 different picks I was able to get on that fight. A lot of them are leaning towards Khabib. It seems like the people that are leaning towards Dustin is more like sentiment and sentimentality for Dustin, wanting him to win and liking him. But more people, when they're just going with their logical mind, are picking Khabib. And I'm gonna go with this. I mean, not that Poirier doesn't. I feel like Poirier definitely hasn't had a chance, but I don't. It's a big question. Like, Poirier just hasn't really faced a lot of strong wrestlers, it feels like. So it's hard to say what his wrestling defense is. It hasn't really been tested, and he got to his feet and then tested again. Like, so it's hard to say. I mean, he's at a very good camp, so you think it's on the level, but I mean, this guy's just, Khabib's a whole nother monster. He's a monster. He's just like an indestructible, forward pushing, just wrestling, grappling, dominant machine. I'm not feel. If Poirier won, I wouldn't be necessarily shocked. I think sometime Khabib's gonna lose, but I'm gonna go with Khabib, and I think he's gonna get a decision. But I think Poirier will definitely have moments in that fight where old Nurmagomedov, the ego, gets a little bit of a scare.
I'm liking where you're going with this. I think Khabib gets it done. I think he gets it done, but I don't think he's gonna look like the untouchable, just world beater that he has previously. Dustin Poirier, I think, is a unique blend of technique and chaos to give Khabib a lot of fits. So, for instance, and I went on this point in a little more detail on the homie Matt Hunter's channel, Mixed Combat Radio. Did a show last night talking about this. Shout out to Matt Hunter. Check out his channel, by the way. Anyway, Khabib has not faced a guy, I think, who creates a lot of chaos. You look at, let me just double check this while I'm talking here. Excuse me. But looking at the names that he has beaten, Conor McGregor, Ala Quinta, Edson Barboza, Michael Johnson, Daryl Horcher, I don't think really counts here, but Rafael dos Anjos, like these are guys who aren't exactly the most chaotic guys. They're going to come at you with a pretty scientific approach. Poirier has that ability, but he also lets it loose sometimes. Juxtapose him against Conor. Conor is like the pinpoint laser striker who's going to get that one good shot and is going to rattle you and then make his move for the kill. Poirier has that ability to one shot, disrupt your brain function, but he's also more going to be the type who isn't going to be so stuck on the technique that he just decides, oh, it's time to get ugly.
He could be a rabid dog, and that's what people like about him.
Exactly. And I don't think Khabib has fought that rabid dog yet. Now, one point that Matt brought up, and he said this was something that Luke Thomas alluded to in some breakdown video he did. I have yet to watch it, so I don't know exactly what Luke said, but since I talked to Matt about it, Matt's going to get the credit this time. About his takedown defense using submission moves as part of his takedown defense, or at least his, going for a Kimura to sweep to try to get up. Or if you go in for a takedown and he grabs a hold of an arm or tries to threaten with a guillotine. I don't think we've seen people do that with any consistency against Khabib yet. We've seen, if anything, we see people almost accept that they're in a bad position and then try to conserve enough energy to maybe get this one burst that they can get up and get out of this zone of pure agony and discomfort. Dustin, on the other hand, will force some sort of chaos. How Khabib responds to the chaos is going to be another story right there. We know Poirier has the power to do some damage. I think if he comes in early with some body shots, that could kind of disrupt Khabib's endless gas tank. If he throws some uppercuts and knees, which he's very capable of doing and does frequently, maybe you can get Khabib to hesitate on some of those takedown attempts. How does he deal with the chain wrestling? I don't know if we haven't seen him against, just someone who's purely dedicated to getting him to the ground. I do think Khabib gets it done, but it's going to be hell to pay. Khabib wins a hard-fought decision, in my book.
I like the point you make, and I think that's true. Especially the rabid dog point, I think that's very true. And I think he got a hint of that against Iaquinta, and he didn't like it. The only thing is the submission thing. I was looking it up. Dustin Poirier has 2 submissions since 2012. One is the body triangle to Anthony Pettis, which was pretty much a rib injury, so it's really not a submission. And he got to go back to 2012 against Jonathan Brookins for his submission. So, he may have it. I think, to me, the biggest question mark is what is Dustin Poirier's takedown defense like? Because this is why I was saying, like, we haven't seen it, and it could be great. That's what's fascinating about this fight. He could shock us all and have very good takedown defense, and every time it gets back up, he's chipping away at Khabib's, confidence, and they're gonna beat him up on the feet. But I'm gonna give you his last 10 opponents: Max Holloway, Eddie Alvarez, Gaethje, Pettis, Eddie Alvarez again, Jim Miller, Michael Johnson, Bobby Green, Joe Duffy, and Yancy Medeiros. One healthy grapple first guy in that last 10 fights. So it's like a humongous question mark. What is this guy's wrestling like? That's stunning. This far into his career, fighting for the title, beating up Max Holloway. We still don't know how good of a wrestler Dustin Poirier is. How crazy is that?
See, now, going back on his record, I think the last time, maybe aside from Jim Miller, the last, pure wrestler that that I think he fought might have been Danny Castillo in the WEC, and he lost that one way back when. But see, I wasn't talking about Dustin like actually trying to go for a submission finish. I mean using the threat of a submission as a way to get up, as a way to sweep, change position, and whatnot.
It didn't work out for Rose Namajunas.
When she fought Khabib.
Well, when she fought a strong ass wrestler in Andrade.
No, of course, exactly. But it doesn't always work. But it's something that I don't think we've seen Khabib deal with. And it's just going to be a different sort of approach, because typically when Khabib is swarming you and outworking you and just on top of you, beating the hell out of you, I think it creates a sense of panic in the guys that he's fighting, to where they are not thinking of step 1, step 2, step 3 and how to properly get up, and technique goes out the window. It's like, oh my God, I'm covering up. A post. Oh, he snatches that wrist away. Oh my God, I got to cover up. And it just becomes this cycle of panic. You know, maybe if you grab an arm and you try to, you act like you're going for a Kimura, maybe Khabib shifts his hips enough to where you can scoot out. Maybe, you know, it is not a guarantee, but it at least would be a different look. It'll be something that we haven't seen somebody do with any level of consistency. And I think Poirier too has such a fearless approach that he's not going to fall into the trap of, excuse me, at least I don't think he'll fall into the trap of, oh my God, this guy's such a suffocating grappler. I'm nervous about getting my stand up off. So let me back up and then oops, I'm against the fence. Now I'm fucked. I don't see him doing that. Yeah. I see him being more the type to like, hey, let's collide. I think we should like give some credit to Conor McGregor for that. For he tried that approach, but obviously there was flaws in his style of doing it. And I think one of those flaws is that trying to be precise as opposed to getting hands on him and trying to initiate some sort of chaos. Yeah. All right. So, Jason, let's go ahead and because I guess I was supposed to do this week and I just forgot to prepare questions for the preview articles for next week. So don't be surprised if I hit you up, say, hey, hop on Skype, let's do this real quick. Okay. But in the meantime, let's go and look. I'm going to go through the chat and see if there's anything that we missed. Tommy Shelby saying, I look like Maurice Green. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I've been told I look like Greg Hardy. In fact, I was told that on this show.
That's. I think you look more like Maurice Green than Greg Hardy.
Yeah, I don't look like either one of those dudes. No, I've been told I look like Tory Lanez.
Who?
Tory Lanez, a rapper. You listen to rap music?
Rap died for me around 2006.
Oh, you one of those guys, huh? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
It's terrible music now.
All right. Old man credential. Okay.
Yep. Get off my porch.
What else we got? Frank McEgger calling us grinders. Respect.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Let's see here. What else we got? Stokely Carmichael comment was appreciated. Knee Strike saying arm bars stops the wrestling pretty fast, in my opinion. I'm assuming he's referring to the Makachev and Davi Ramos fight. Problem is, you can't arm bar somebody if they're laying flat compressed against your chest. Wrestlers are very good at going chest to chest on somebody and keeping their weight as heavy as possible on the man on bottom. So very hard to get an arm bar if your shoulders and hips have no space to move. Designated member asking, why is it called Khabib versus Poirier? Shouldn't it be Nurmagomedov versus Poirier? It should, but Khabib is easier to put on a poster.
Yes.
Easier for people to say.
Yes.
That's all it is.
Yes.
D Strike saying he fought Eddie, which was a wrestler, but
no.
Eddie Alvarez, as a wrestler as he can be, it's not the first thing he went.
No. It's like saying Khabib's a striker. No. Yeah, he can if he has to, but no.
Yeah. I mean, like Eddie Alvarez can wrestle, but that's not his thing. That's not something he really wants to do.
No.
All right, designated member talking about Khabib's positional lockdowns and sitting on legs and not the stuff you can throw submissions at. Good points there. Um, yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's some good stuff in the chat there. So definitely want to thank everyone who participated, kept the conversation moving, and gave us some fun stuff to talk about outside of the pre-prepared questions that were dropped to us on the Sherdog.com forums. So Jason, let the people know where they can find you. I'm sure it's below, but go ahead, say it. What you got coming up?
Right down there. Cheap Seats chats, as you can see on Instagram and Twitter. Like I mentioned, there's the pro picks, 18 different fighters' opinions. You got Demetrius Johnson, Naaman Gracie, Chris Wade, Jared Rolshaw, Alec Nicholson, Victor champion Pam Sorensen, LFA champion Julius Anglicus. Anglicus. I don't know how you say it. It's very difficult name. You got a couple fights from Gabate, Andres Quintana. It's a whole bunch of fights. Go get a look. It's great. A lot of interesting things. Just had the article with Zach Cummings. Just came out today. He's also on the Abu Dhabi card. That was fun. And also there's a clip out there you can see where I asked him about fighter financial management and should the UFC put more of an effort to try to help fighters better manage their finances. And we talked about the retreat they had. He made an interesting point about how they brought Kobe Bryant out, and while it was cool, it didn't really connect like they thought it was going to connect. Also have the interview with Emmanuel Sanchez. He fights at Bellator 226 this Saturday. That was a real fun one. He talking about Tyron Clarkson, all different stuff going on with him. And yeah, I'll have more stuff next week. But as always, Cheap Seats Chat on Twitter, on Instagram.
All right, so you can find me on Twitter at Ant Walker MMA. Also my Instagram. I don't post much, but follow me anyway. What I have coming up, the good, bad, and the ugly for UFC 242 will be going live after that event. I probably will incorporate some Bellator 226 talk as well, possibly, maybe. We'll see. Also, check out the Walkout Network, my YouTube channel, that will have a post-fight show for UFC 242. So definitely want your participation in that. We can talk about the action, talk about what's next for some of those fighters, and whatever else you want to talk about, at least until the Bellator card starts. And let's see, what else? That might be it. Might be forgetting something. Oh, yeah, I did. Ask Ant, mailbag column. So we got a lot of questions left over. So I'll go ahead and pick a few, and we'll address those for the mailbag column. Keep an eye out for that as well. So that's going to do it for this edition of The Trenches. I'm Ant Walker. He's Jason Burgos. And you know what you got to do. You got to stay beautiful. You got to stay positive.